Good afternoon, Guardians. Hello, welcome to the LoreMasters panel. I'm actually surprised for a game with no story, we've actually filled a whole lore panel. That's very nice. Good job. Alright, I am here today. I am Leah Love's Chief. I am a self-confessed lore noob, or I was, a few months back. I've been working with Vive recently to correct that. And I have with me today our panelists. We have Mylan Games.
Welcome back, Guardians.
We have My Name is Vive.
Something paracausal.
And we have Blue Crew.
Good job, guys.
So our sort of goal today is I want to talk to these guys about who they are as LoreMasters, which is probably the best title you can have in the Destiny community, the LoreMaster. We're going to talk a little bit about what that entails, what they enjoy doing in their spare time, and then we're going to talk about the Destiny lore. And I hope in the second half of the panel to do a Q&A, and we'll ask you guys, like, what do you want to know from us? So I guess my first question is, Mylan, who are you? What do you do within the lore community, and why?
Cool. Can I do one thing first? Because it warms my heart to see so many people on here. Don't leave me hanging. On the count of 3, I want everyone to yell lore. We usually reserve to people in the community, but I want to show everyone.
Lore.
Oh, Lore. Okay. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Lore! That will show everyone else. What was the question? No. So, Mylan Games is my name. People call me Melon, Myellen, any sort of derivative of Mylan. Started off on YouTube, and that's still my home. Doing some streams now as well, but what got me into the lore, I've told this story a fair few times, so a lot of people will be familiar with it, but my background is occupational therapy, and I got into YouTube to try to meld therapy and gaming together, and I'd met a couple of clients that really used gaming to escape their world. They had physical or mental disabilities, and they needed a relief, and a stress relief, and an anxiety relief, and a lot of us used it for that. And I realized after starting to make lore videos that you could give a lot of feelings of storytelling through that, and you can bring people back into the universe, and I felt that was really powerful. And without playing the game, you could bring them into that Destiny universe, and they could get that moment of relief after the 10 or 15 minutes. So that's one of the reasons why I've continued the lore videos, and what really inspired me to keep going with it. And when I started YouTube, I really felt like, I don't think you really know who you are until you try to do a YouTube channel and you get a lot of people commenting on what they think you are. I thought I was a funny guy, and I realized very quickly I was not the funny dude. But I also worked out that I was a good storyteller. I worked out that I was good at telling a story and taking people through a narrative. And that's what I honed in on the channel, is to tell a story. And that's why I've stuck with the lore.
Hello guys. I don't see you very often at all. We live in the same country.
No.
I'll have to ask you the same question. So you were involved with other games, weren't you? The lore and other games before you moved on to Destiny. And you
I mean, this is the thing, I've always loved sort of storytelling in video games and the lore generally, but Destiny was the first time that I ever really jumped in with things. And ever since I saw the first few trailers of it in 2013, I was sold on this idea of the universe, you know? There's a few times where you see those iconic universes, like, say, Star Wars, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, and it just feels complete, you know? It's this fully formed concept, and it has these ideas within the world that can sum it up. And from the first trailer, that's what I felt about Bungie's universe with Destiny. And ever since then, I thought, I want to understand what there is to know about this game, you know? It was this thing of, it was full of mystery and adventure, and I always wanted to know more. And so, when finally we saw our first glimpse of Destiny, and we started hearing all of these little tidbits about things like, oh, what's the Twilight Cap? What's the European Dead Zone? Who are the Fallen? What are they doing? What are these guys standing around in capes that look like Vikings? Oh, those are the Fallen? Okay. These little tidbits that started slowly coming together, that was the first point at which I really fell in love. And then Vanilla released, and and we all know how that went. So I mean, after that was said and done, you know, I'll not lie, I was a little disenfranchised, but I kept on searching for stuff in the Grimoire, and for an entire year I was trying to psych myself up for this. I was trying to say, like, maybe I should try doing lore videos. Meanwhile, there were other people, like the wonderful Sir Wallen, who I'm sure many of you guys know and love. Shout out to Sir Wallen. But the OG, one of the best. The OG. Yeah, you know, there were guys like him who were jumping in. And by the time he got to Taken King, I decided, you know what, yeah, I'll take the plunge. And so I started making my first few proper lore videos, and ever since then, it has been a regular feature of my YouTube channel, and something that has garnered me a reputation in the community as a lore master. So that was kind of it. As for the lore itself, I think it's one of those amazing promises of the Destiny universe, you know? Matt summarizes so wonderfully in his last sentence or two how it is a place that you can be transported to and it provides relief. And you know, the context of his quote for that, of course, is far more sort of noble than anything I say. But anything that can bring you away and makes the controller disappear and makes you imagine yourself in that universe and makes you find a greater and deeper appreciation for that universe is something that I can really wrap my head around. And ultimately, that's kind of what it comes down to. You just want to understand the universe better. You want to ultimately know that the place you're in is mattering for certain reasons. The things you're doing matter for certain reasons. And yeah, you want to tell a good story and you want to hear a good story. That's it.
And on your journey of discovering, you seem to share it with everybody else, which is really awesome. So, Luke.
Mine's not as noble. Yeah, I'm just curious. So when I actually got into Destiny because I got it free, which is how it happened. It's a running joke with our community that I'm actually more of a Halo player than I am a Destiny player, which is how I got into it because of the Bungie connection. But then when we did that, we started really kind of finding kind of what you guys were mentioning, especially with Vanilla. There was some missing pieces, and we basically started really diving into that. And we also found that it didn't really matter what community you were coming from; everyone was curious about it. So we set up Focus Fire as more of a cross-community gathering, and it was never really a clan. It has become a clan. But originally it was just basically a safe place for everyone from all walks of life to come in and just chat about it. Now we have, I don't know how many games that we talk about, and it's constantly flowing, but it's predominantly always been about Destiny, so that's our origin.
So Destiny itself, despite people's conceptions, there is a lot, I'm sure you guys know there's a lot that goes into, there's a lot of history that goes into the game, there's a lot of, every single weapon has its own lore, like there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. So in this sea of content, when you get from like the enemies and ourselves, the Guardians, the Traveler, what do you prefer to focus on in your content? What's your sort of most interesting area?
I cover a bit of everything from, you know, exotic weapon lore to character lore to nearly any of the aspects of it. The starting point usually is a question, because I find it's, you know, both Barth and Blue Crew said it's the intrigue and curiosity, and so I think that's the first step, is to find out what the audience is intrigued about. So I try to think about what intrigues me about the lore and what I want to find out, and then hopefully you find that interesting as well. And so I start with a question like that, and then I'll move on to diving deeper. I use Star Collective as pretty much the primary source of how I might go about finding aspects of that. So let's say for Felwinter, you know, we have the intrigue of Felwinter's Lie. You're like, well, what's Felwinter's Lie? What was all that about? So to start searching for Felwinter, the Iron Lords, any keywords that might bring that up. And then usually after about 2 or 3 hours of researching, I'll have that aha moment, like that's the ending. That's where I want to get to. I find that card that I'm like, ooh, that's the twist that I would like the audience to arrive to and make up their own decision. So I don't have a specific area, but I usually like to start with a question that might encourage some intrigue and then work towards that as a conclusion for the video.
So on my end of things, I think fundamentally it comes from my disappointment with vanilla, and that's kind of the basis for most of my content, right? This sounds bad, but it's good, I promise. Okay? Much like Destiny's story, it's going to take a second to get there. But
Or maybe 3 years.
it will take a few. But no, so here's the thing, right? I always looked at the vanilla story, and then I looked at the lore that you got on vanilla, whether it was the tidbits that we got about Thorn and the Last Word, or whether it was the whispers that we got about the Ahamkara, or whether it was reading through the few fragments of Toland's journal that we had at that point, or whether by the time we got to Dark Below, it was the first fire team that took on Crota, Eris Morn, Iriana 3, etc. These are stories, and I looked at them and I thought, why am I not playing this? Why are they not telling this story? Why not do this properly? And so that's the basis for a lot of my content, particularly the stuff that's a lot more edited. So, I mean, the latest examples of that are Iron Lords and Book of Sorrows, which I promise I will finish, I promise.
He says this all the time, though, so...
But no, seriously, that's always the basis for whenever I'm trying to find a piece of content that is worthy. My approach is always, if I'm going to do a very long animated video on this stuff, is number one, is this a story worth telling? So for example, the Iron Lords at Rise of Iron, given that they have an expansion and given that they are so integral to the early Destiny universe after the collapse, yes, they are very much a story worth telling. Not to mention that each of them in their own is a strong character that you really can wrap your mind around. And that's kind of like the point of all of this, you know? It's to take these mythical characters in the lore that we may have read about but we've never seen, and to give them a face and to bring them to life. And that's always going to be the goal, is if ever there is a point where the lore hasn't managed to sort of, you know, really bring a character forward yet, I'm going to investigate further and maybe we'll put that on the back burner for a little while. But if there's a fully fleshed out character and we can say, yes, this is a story worthy of telling, then that's something I want to try and focus on. It's also always trying to find that nice balance, right? Because sometimes you want to cover a topic.
No, Chris, everyone run.
Say no, Chris, 3 times in Tier Summit. But yeah, no, the entire point is trying to find that balance, right? So if it is one of those stories that is worthy of being told, then I want to make sure it's done justice. But at the same time, it's covering all of the in-between little tidbits of lore. So I mean, something that Matt and I published at the same time most recently was our findings on the Exodus program and Siva and Exodus Black. So, you know, all of these little tidbits that come in that don't necessarily have a full story, but lead to something pretty cool as a discovery. That's also something that I always want to tell about.
Well, for me, as most people know, my obsession is Osiris, because he's the best character ever. But no, for our community, really, we let the community decide what we're going to talk about each week. So we have a weekly poll that runs, and they basically tell us what they're curious. And so, I mean, it's very similar to, I think, everyone in the lore community. It's the, what do you guys want to know about? We kind of take a different approach because we're not really artistic like those guys. We're not that way. We just talk a lot, which is kind of what, it was funny, they put us on here and I'm like, how long do we have? An hour?
An hour is not long enough.
That's dangerous. It's really dangerous. But so we let the community decide. And so like right now, we're actually running the poll right now. But most recently it's been, you know, the story of Yore, which 5 people coming on. That was amazing.
Shout out to Justin.
Yeah, Justin, bandit number 1. That was an amazing one. We do updates, we do dives, we did like the city festivals a couple weeks back. And so it's just those little tidbits. It's very exactly kind of like they all start with the question of, well, what is this? What's a probability count? We don't know. It could be a cat with jelly toast taped to it. We have no idea what is going on in those things. And that's where the community kind of comes together. IshtarCollective.net is an amazing resource. We have that to really to help guide us in that. And Reddit, the Destiny lore subreddit, is amazing. These guys are really good for fact checking. Any of our ideas, we usually watch their stuff that they've already done and then kind of disagree with them. Actually, no, we don't really. I think, yeah, we usually agree. Except for the identity of Rezel.
Oh wow, that debacle. When that was, can I just say, when that was finally unraveled, that caused so much distress to so many people. Because it was the whole, is he a hunter or is he Titan? What do you mean they're the same person?
Yes.
Are they the same person? Or
Can we please do a live poll here?
Oh god.
Can we? Yeah, with hands up?
Yeah, with hands up or
Hands up.
Hands up. Okay, so what's hands up? Brazil Zia is what? Dreadvignol.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay, so Razor Zero's Dreadvignol. Yes, hands up.
Hands up.
I'd say it's about 40%.
And no.
Oh.
You're banned.
A lot of
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. It's wrong, but you're entitled to it. But yeah, that's our inspiration. Is really we want to know what you guys want, and we kind of have it easy because, I mean, I say that kind of jokingly. You know, like Vive said, there was a lot of holes, and it was just something that needed to be filled, and we didn't really want to try the YouTube route because that's a lot of work. So huge shout out to you guys. That's an immense amount of work, and I don't know how you do it. Do you sleep? Well, I know you don't sleep. Do you sleep? No, that's even more impressive.
Where'd you find time for that? No, really, I need to know. Like yesterday, please.
But I mean, so like as a podcast, it's just a lot easier. We literally just record our conversations, and really it's even easier than that for us because we have a chat and the community talks about it. We dive into it for over a week, and then basically that's where kind of the podcast came from. Was we had a lot of people who were like, I can't keep up. Can you just do a recap of it? And so that's where we started, and now it's kind of evolved into making fun of Bife and agreeing with Melon sometimes. But I mean, and that's really where our community has developed.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I think the awesome thing about the lore community is there's so many resources now. Like you guys have cornered a lot of the market there, and you're really good at putting out videos and absolutely everything you could think of about the lore. But there's like, you know, like you mentioned, the Ishtar Collective is a fantastic resource. And I mean, the problem I had was I sort of looked at one Grimoire card, and then I found myself still there 4 hours later down the rabbit hole, like, oh my god, I didn't realize all this existed in Destiny. And I mean,
the other problem is
yeah,
it's not a rabbit hole, it's a warren. And you like go in one and it's like, where am I?
Much like the internet is a system of tubes.
Yeah.
On that side note, I want to say this before we move on. Can we just get a cheer for Baxter and the guys at Ishtar Collective?
That one right there.
One of which is Purple Chimera, who is in the audience wearing the science jacket.
Raise your hand.
Stand up, your hand.
An extremely valuable resource if you want to know anything about the Grimoire and you're like, man, I wish I didn't have to trawl through the Bungie website, which is not the best optimized thing ever.
If Baxter and Ishtar Collective wanted to shut down me and Vive, if I just closed the website, it would be over.
I mean, we joke, but it's almost true. It's true. Take a look at like any screenshot where I'm trying to pull a Grimoire card, and you'll be like, what format? Oh yeah, it's Ishtar. Okay.
So now you know you have the power. Alright, so there's a lot of actually incredibly interesting lore within Destiny. Do you have, very briefly, one favourite piece of lore?
Do you want to say it at the same time? You ready?
3, 2, 1. Dragons!
Oh.
Come on, dragons!
Romance is over.
Dragons, dude!
Yeah.
Always pick dragons! Okay, hands up for dragons, hands up for dragons. Yeah, that's it. Hands up for Book of Sorrows.
What about Osiris? There's the, I have some support. I win.
They're still lost in time.
I guess it's fair to say yours is Osiris.
Oh, yeah.
Osiris. Well, and it's because the interconnection. I mean, do you guys like mind maps? Anyone? Yeah? You should.
No, anyone?
Yeah, anyone? You want to really be scared? Ask us in the Discord for our Osiris mind map.
Oh, whoa. Forget about Osiris mind map.
Oh, the Lord.
You want to get lost?
Yes.
Find the Lord.
Yeah, so Captain Kex, big shout out to Kex for the win, has put together a giant mind map of every single Grimoire connection, item connection. We're working on the ships right now, is what I'm helping him work on right now. We are putting that together, and it's showing all the connections of every single part, every single item, every single piece of flavor text, transcripts, everything. largely, again, thanks to Baxter and the Ishtar Collective team, because that's where a lot of the databases come from. But it's a mind map format, and it's free. So anyone who is curious for that, you can hit probably any of us up. We'll get you links to, well, just ask Hex, honestly.
So basically, if you have a spare week.
Yeah, if you have a spare week, that's reading really fast. But it's amazing. It really is.
Awesome.
That's another one that would kill us
mean,
if he took that away from us.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited were you when they said DLC, Destiny 2, Osiris?
So we turned that up to 11. We turned that up to 11, and yeah.
Sure. Alright, so I think we should talk about Destiny 2. It's like the main thing, really, isn't it? We're here to talk about. So.
Wait, there's a Destiny 2?
I thought it was a dead game.
I thought it was a dead game.
So the biggest talking point, I think, is that the other day, Luke Smith sort of said, hey, by the way, the darkness isn't a thing.
Isn't a thing in Destiny 2.
So, I mean, I think when you talk about that, that's pretty significant. I mean, as people who have taken apart every aspect of everything, that's every single word that's been spoken in Destiny and broken it down, saying, oh, this large thing doesn't exist is a big deal.
I think Bife and I were very yin and yang on this, because when it was the Grimoire cards, right, it was an emotional video from you.
When there was
no more
cards at
Grimoire
first
cards.
for me was like, oh my god, can't believe it's such a Bungie thing to do, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, etc. It was controlled rage at a certain point, right? Because that was the point at which I genuinely had no idea of how we were going to get deep lore and whatnot. But Matt was the more virtuous one in this instance and approached it with a much more level head. And then the yin and yang kind of switched.
Then it was about the Exo Stranger and how the arc had been completed for the Exo Stranger, and that entered rage mode. And
Yeah, I don't get that. They completely had a complete story with her. I don't know why you're mad about that.
You got a cool gun. She dissolved.
Yeah, that's it.
What more do you want?
Now, she gave us the loot. She gave us the loot, and that was all we cared about.
I mean, let's be real, we don't have time to explain this.
Right, that's true.
But I mean, I think, I don't know. I've calmed down now, and I have confidence in Destiny 2 and the way that the story will be delivered, and the way that lore will be delivered, and that there will be still an amazing, complex story there. And I think you would probably agree with that.
I can agree with that, but also I think it's very important to address the point that was made in a lot of those interviews where it seemed like a lot of the storylines have been shelved. I think it's also really important to address the fact that this does not happen in a closed space. You've got to remember that every single week, Cosmo, the wonderful community manager at Bungie, takes the feedback from every corner of the community, our community and the lore included, and he circulates it to the whole studio. So when myself and Mylan got on our respective soapboxes, everyone in the community had spoken. We had heard your guys' cries. We had effectively said, yeah, we completely agree. And that has made its way to Bungie. And it's not one of those things where it's like, yeah, we all, we took it directly to it. But any comment that Luke Smith talked about with regards to shelving certain storylines, that is going to be now taken in with the context of there are people in this community that still want to know about the Exo Stranger, that still think that there are storylines that can be explained there, and yes, explaining them is important. So with that critique, Bungie has consistently been improving their games and moving forward based on that critique. So I would be very surprised if we didn't see that moving forward at some point. Now, let's be real. It's not going to be immediate. It'll take some time. And I think when they do it any justice, they'll introduce it later on down the line. And this is just what they've said about the darkness, right? It's the case that they're not necessarily going to jump in and do it immediately when Destiny 2 comes in, because they want to cover their basics. They want to talk about the light, and they want to talk about how that is primarily the focus for us and what it means to be a Guardian. They're probably going to reintroduce the darkness again later, and this is something that I think you and I can agree on, Matt, especially you, because you've plotted the course for all of this theory. The darkness is like a real tangible thing, Everybody talks about how it's this vague force, but realistically, if you break it down, you can say, yes, the darkness is the formless one. The darkness has its own cosmic presence, and it is an entity with a consciousness. So, I mean, there is an idea of what the darkness is in the studio, and I think the point at which Luke Smith said we didn't know what the darkness was at one point was probably during the development of Vanilla in that last stage, and they said, no, we want to do something better with this. So,
yeah, they're really focusing now, and I think we'll get these detailed, focused narratives and from what's been released, you know, it's going. It needs to be in game, and that was the main issue with Destiny 1, and it was funny how this has panned out. Like, I don't think in year one they would have ever thought that we could fill a room with the story of Destiny, but one of its greatest weaknesses ended up being one of its greatest strengths, was because it intrigued people with the Grimoire cards, and I don't think they ever imagined it playing out like that. And so it will be in-game now, and they've said that through the adventures we're going to meet those quest givers in the social spaces who will tell the lore about that world and that area.
Well, and two things there. One, going back to what you were saying, is remember, so we're here for the story. Remember, in a story arc, look at a lot of the traditional story arcs. They introduce the world, and then they step back and they actually do an in-depth analysis of particular characters. That's a very common trope in stories. And that's kind of how I view the whole, let's not talk about the darkness, let's not talk about, you know, that, is they're focusing exactly what you guys are saying. They're focusing on the antagonist, and then they're going to focus on the protagonist, and then they're going to, you know, we might have an anti-hero, Osiris. There's, or Tola. You know, there's some anti-heroes out there that, you know, Eris has kind of disappeared.
Ominously.
But yeah, she can teleport now, by the way. You know, anyone who didn't catch that. So I mean, there's a lot of things that they can explore through the DLC. We have a Rasputin DLC. We have an Osiris DLC coming. There's a lot of things that are going to be, from a storytelling perspective, very, very traditional. And that's one of the things, is they threw a world out there for us, and they didn't really explain it. We all admit that. But now we've all kind of gotten to the point where we're pretty comfortable with it. Now they're going to give us another level, and they're probably going to do the same thing. So, I mean, I'm expecting a lot of complaints about there's not enough in there. It's in there, we just have to find it. And that kind of brings me to the second point. Ishtar is one of the things that we're going to be helping ramp up, because they're starting to do transcripts of the missions. So, okay, you guys don't have Grimoire, we don't have the textual thing. Great, then come help us. We're going to record every mission, we're going to record every aspect, and we're putting that into text so that you guys can search it.
My biggest regret in Destiny 1 is not screen capping the dialogue in Quest. So you know, when you go and like jump on the Vanguard table and then talk to Cade and don't read that little blurb that comes up, that can be really hard to find anywhere. And some of those in-game dialogues. And the next thing is, they've said there's going to be a commentary quest box, potentially, that you can respond differently.
Yes.
So if there's multiple responses from the NPCs and their lore is in-game in that provides a really big hurdle to making lore videos.
Well, what I
need to have 4 different playthroughs.
What I just heard there is I'm going to have to delete my Warlock over and over and over to get the same conversation with different options. Mike's not paying attention, by the way, because he's not throwing anything at me. But I'm trying to blank out the insulting notion of deleting a Warlock right now.
It's okay. It's alright, it's got self-res, I'll come back.
Exactly. I'm like Santa Clauses. Not with a beard, though.
I think it's very easy to focus on the fact that they've decided to fix the Cabal. The Cabal is going to be the big enemy in Destiny 2. And then obviously we have the DLCs, which are teased with, you know, Osiris and things like that. But so far we've had our time with the Vex, we've had the Hive, and we haven't had any Cabal yet. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the fact that, A, we seem to get to a point with each enemy where we defeat something, but they're still pretty much a huge threat to the universe. They're still out there causing chaos. You know, the Hive is still unresolved, and now bringing in the Cabal in there. Does it feel like we're building up to something much bigger? Or
we see the Taken come back too. We know that there's going to be someone that eventually comes back into the Hive realm to take that throne spot, and they've got the foundational enemies, which I don't think will be going away anytime soon. And you're already getting snippets of the Cabal, and so we know Gary is going to be one of the main bosses, but we've also got a snippet of Console now as well. And to me, I think Gary's going to be like the Crota of the Dark Below, and Console's going to be the Oryx. He seems to have pulled a lot of the strings to get Gary to take the Traveler from humanity and to influence Gary. and there's a voice actor for console too. So we should hear some voice lines.
Optimus Prime? Or no, yeah, Optimus Prime is Gary.
Skeletor, right?
Yeah,
Skeletor.
yeah.
We should hear some voice acting, some narration from this ominous threat, and I think it's very similar to Predator and Oryx alignment.
So wait, hang on, I just realized this. Skeletor is the voice of Gary, right? So does that make the
I think it's
does that make the Dongblade He-Man of the universe?
Could be the last game, Destiny 3, if we're talking like the sort of life cycle we've had going on. Does that worry you at all?
No.
I'll say this right now. They haven't spoken a lot about the 10-year plan in ages.
Right.
I wonder if it's still a thing in terms of, I wonder if it's not just, let's keep doing this. Because honestly, I see so many stories in this universe that are unresolved and so many stories that are still evolving that I think we could easily go for beyond 10 years. You know, take a look at World of Warcraft, right? How long has that gone on and how many storylines are still unresolved? There are still characters in that universe that have just disappeared. Destiny is much the same.
Well, and I think the 10-year plan, I view that as a minimum. Because, and this is a slight critique on Bungie, is I think as long as they're interested in doing what they're doing, they will stick with it. I look at Halo as a big inspiration for that. There's a lot of tension there, and the thing that was there was they always wanted to do something more like Destiny. They've even admitted that. And so as long as they're interested, I think the 10-year plan was kind of a, we are going to be here for at least this. Now they're getting into, oh, well, we can do what we want to do.
Alright.
We can keep going.
Yeah, sorry, we're short on time. So
Oh,
I'm going to
gotcha. Well, that's a
as much
surprise.
as we
Yeah,
can.
okay.
Let's talk quickly about the speaker's disappearance, because that was the one thing that got me from that first mission. They just stole the whole of the speaker's chambers. They were like,
I mean, he didn't talk, so we're not going to miss him.
What?
I mean,
he
what
was
do
the
you...
speaker, right? He didn't talk, so I don't really...
What do you think the significance of that is? They've taken the Traveler, they've encased it, and they've taken the speaker. Is he a hostage?
Well, I mean, take a look at the facts that when they talk about reclaiming and rediscovering all those old heroes of the Golden Age, let's get my mind out of the gutter there. Of the tower, right? They're not talking about the speaker. They're not even talking about some mythical figures like Saint 14. They're talking about Cade, Zavala, and Ikora. There is no mention of the speaker. I'm pretty sure that when we get to that Gore cutscene, he may well just kill the speaker right then and there.
Well,
So here's my like I can't why, but come on.
Well, here's my hesitation on that, is again, look at the Cabal, Roman Empire. What was one of their very popular things?
Executions.
No, putting Roman leaders in foreign countries to control them.
so in the cutscene, right? In game, what is Zavala? He says they've got this, or the speaker didn't make it. It was a very ambiguous sentence, and then he said Ikora's gone to find him or something like that.
Right.
She jumps in the air, throws a nova bomb, and that's the last we see in that cutscene.
Which was an amazing.
That's all we really know about the speaker. But there's always been a speaker.
Yeah.
There's always been a speaker.
But,
So as long as we get his mask back, we're good. Her mask. Its mask? What is it? Is it a hologram? What is it?
The speaker?
Is the speaker hard light? Is that what it is? Is that?
I love that theory, by the way.
The speaker is the Traveler.
I mean, the speaker, I guess we don't really have much. What does he really do? We know he vaguely communicates with the Traveler. He's chosen by the people of the city as a leader.
Well, we don't even know that.
Oh?
Well, the thing about the speaker is that there's a bunch of little hints in the Grimoire cards or more item descriptions that there is some distrust there between him being elected as the speaker. We did see him in the Zavala trailer as well as already being there. Was they outside the city still at that point?
I mean, the city wasn't even the city. This is
Yeah, it was a place.
He was around with his masks.
There was a little campfire.
That's pre-faction wars. So
Yeah.
that's like before. I mean, this is before the Guardians were even called Guardians. This is the time of the Risen. This is the time of the Iron Lords and the Warlords. This is early as early gets.
I think the speaker will come back.
I
think they're gonna. I think they'll put him on the shelf for a little bit to develop his storyline to bring him back.
We had a complete story with him, so we don't need him.
I mean, so the second big topic is we're losing our light. You know, they've taken the Traveler. The Traveler's the source of, at least the enhancement of our light.
We didn't lose our light. We lost the source of our light, or one of the sources. This is like, Mylon, you want to take that one? Or?
Yeah. Okay. So we see the device go onto the traveler, and everyone's
Starfish of death.
Second.
It's a starfish of death.
Starfish of death. Everyone's still moving about fine, and then we see the activation of whatever this device is. The orange shield go around the traveler. And that is when we actually see the Vanguard fall down. By the way, I was told by chat, I didn't realise this, I don't know if you've seen it, Cade is missing a leg. Yep. Cade is missing.
His leg has been blown off.
Thank God he's an exo. He doesn't need the leg.
Like,
I mean, he kind of does. Yeah, a little bit.
So, I've always sort of speculated that the Traveller was our main source of light, but we can get light from other sources. Particularly in Taken King, we saw going to the Black Garden to access the Void. We saw going to Mercury to access solar light from the Forge, and we went to Mars to access the Arc Storms for the Stormcallers. So there are other sources of light, and the interaction between our Ghost and our Traveller, I think the Ghost is a conduit to the Traveller to channel that light, which we then manipulate to form a weapon. And I think we'll find in the European Dead Zone, we'll be looking for a new source of light, which will be that shard that has fallen off the Traveller. I think that will be our new. And if you actually look at those screenshots, they've got Void River running from it. There's an Arc Storm above it, and there's solar light in the background. So I think it's relatively suggestive of all the elements coming together.
And the other thing to follow that idea is, like, we know that every single creature in Destiny's universe has light, because Ghost Fragment Thorn 3, which, by the way, this guy right here has a really creepy voice, and he's really good at doing Dredge and Yor when he kills Bandit number 1. Rip Justin. But that's one of the things, is that there's a theory that those bandits are actually the people from Palamon. But the thing is there is a quote there that Dredgen actually calls out that individual, who is not a Guardian, pretty confirmed there, has a spark of light. And he says it's just a spark, but it's still light. So if you look at light as kind of like an animating force of energy, everyone has it, it's just Guardians have more of it, which is where the ghosts come in. They kind of increase your capacity for it.
And then take a look, I know we're running way over this, but then also take a look at what Shinmel first says about Jaron Ward, you know? He wasn't better than us, just more. Somehow more. It's the same sort of thing. So
that is a great way to segue, actually, into a couple of the Twitter questions we had. One of them from Hens and Lens sort of said, you know, there seems to be like a real obvious divide between the light and the darkness in Destiny 1 at least, but is that so? Is it that binary that is good and bad? Because it certainly doesn't seem that way.
The Books of Sorrow is probably the best explanation of light and dark. I'm pretty sure it talks about a cosmic war and these two forces, and the way that I've always thought about it is you have the light and the dark on one side, and they in general have different philosophies. The light wants to build and create, and the deep and the darkness wants to destroy, and that's sort of Oryx's philosophy comes down to him, is that to make the perfect universe, essentially you kill everything, whatever's left, that's the perfect universe. Whereas the light is very different from that. The light is about building and creating.
And one other question I think we get is from My Ninja Hates Us. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. If you could have one story from the Grimoire brought forward and made relevant and completely resolved, what would it be? Question is subtle clue there.
Well, I think the person who didn't have time to explain herself should come back, because I kind of want to know why. Who was she talking to? That's what I want to know. I want to know that. Like, that's the thing is, and there's a lot of hints about the tie-ins to Osiris and her and Maya and the whole thing, and so I think that's a big thing. That would be my answer. Melon?
So many options.
I know. Well,
Tolwyn is very intriguing. I think Tolwyn's going to come back. I'd love to see more of his story.
I mean, I don't know if it's cheating, but I just want to know what exactly happened between Rasputin and the Traveller to make the Traveller stay on Earth, because there's all that sort of, the Rasputin attacked the Traveller.
He didn't shoot it.
I want to know!
He didn't shoot it.
There's going to be a fight.
This is another live poll. This is the best.
Okay, here we go.
Did Rasputin shoot the traveler to keep it on
Hands up
Earth?
for yes. Okay,
Alright.
they're wrong. Hands up for no. See, they've read the grimoire.
Can I say as well, the grimoire being lines of code, it's ambiguous as all heck.
Yeah, that is true. But I mean, the one of the later Rasputin cards did kind of point to that. The answer is no. But it did leave it open as well, even though it's open. It's
We agree to disagree.
yeah.
What's your favourite unanswered question?
Okay, so yeah. One piece of grimoire that I want brought forward. In fact, I'm going to say one piece of grimoire that is not grimoire. I want to know properly who Nocris is, because we have two theories on this, right? One which, real talk, one which Myelin and Anonpig fleshed out in their video, which is that it's a lost son of Oryx. You also then have the fact that Nocris is derived from potentially a Hebrew word called Nocri. And Nocri stands for something along the lines of concubine, mistress, or temptress, which means, potentially, that it is the mother that spawned all of Oryx's children. And yet, for some reason, she is not referenced anywhere in the Book of Sorrows.
There's another really fun theory too.
Oh, 3 theories.
Yeah. So the thing is Nocris is not mentioned anywhere in Hive, and anywhere in the Great World Thread. Thank you. So think about that. There is in the Books of Sorrow every mention of mistakes, every mention of missteps that the siblings, we'll call that, made. So it's obviously something really bad. What's the worst thing that a hive could do? What's the worst thing that something from the darkness could do? Go to the light. And we see, and there's the reason I kind of like this theory, and I really just it sticks, is because we have examples of people from the light falling into the darkness. Why can't we have an example of a dark creature rising into the light?
Okay, excellent. So guys, I think what we're going to do now is take some questions from everybody who's here in the audience. Now I want everybody to be very calm and patient. Please remain calm. You're running around the HAL sector.
Hold the door.
Yeah, you can see that there is a microphone in the center aisle at the front, so if you guys want to very quickly line up, please do not cause any hassle with this. If you have any questions, we will take as many as we can.
Yeah, we do only have 15 minutes.
So let's make this a lightning round.
And try and reduce the potential for these guys to ramble, because you know how life gets.
All of us. Let's be that way.
Questions.
Alright, in Destiny 2 or Destiny 3, do you think that we're going to go out of the solar system? Or any DLC?
So has anybody got the PlayStation exclusive Long Tomorrow armor set for the Hunter? Because in that it talks about a whole bunch of I see a couple of people there. So in that it talks about a whole bunch of people that have actually gone exploring within the system of Sol, which is of course our own solar system. But it also talks about how one person said he made it all the way to Alpha Centauri, which is the next closest solar system, if I'm not mistaken. And that's really, really cool, because that means, yeah, there is the potential for us to go above and beyond. So yeah.
Great answer.
Thank you. Titan Master Race.
Okay, whoa, guys. Let's make this a poll. Right? That's one type. None for Warlock, one for...
It's master class, not race.
Alright, so one of the biggest plot holes that I feel that I've come is why did Oryx, in your opinion, not take any of the races from our system?
As in Guardians?
No, as in
just like any Awoken.
Awoken human and Exos.
Yeah.
We don't see any taken versions of them in the game, and that's actually a good question.
Yeah, I think that is a good question. I think we could put that down. Like, I want to say there's a lot of reason for everything, but I don't know if there always is. Sometimes it's just because video games, which sucks that that's the case.
But the thing is, we may take an armor, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So in the House of Wolves or in the Prison of Elders, they used Techians, the Queen's Tech Witches, to extract Taken power from the Taken and put it into armor, which affects us, and let's say we get the actual Taken armor. But the process of taking is basically to swallow an enemy into a space, we don't know where it is, probably the deep, and to make their will their own. I think Guardians typically have always made their own.
Well, the other thing to remember is those three races are also infused with the Traveler's Light. So the Awoken are the Exers, but Exos, everything came from humanity. Humanity was always blessed with the Traveler's Light within the Golden Age. And so if you think about it from the deep and the darkness, one of the antitheses of a dark thing is a light thing. So you can't really take a light, though, I mean, the argument there kind of falls apart, though, with the Elixni, because the Elixni were also given a Golden Age. Now, granted, the Elixni were not given a Golden Age in the same vein as the humans. So you have a bit of a light-infused race that can't really be dipped in darkness because there's an inherent opposite there. So you can corrupt, but you can't. And I mean, look at Tolan, look at Dredge and Yor. You can corrupt, but you can't bathe in that darkness in the same way. I think that was always the answer I always defaulted to.
It's a good answer. I'd say there's a little more to support that. Take a look at King's Fall, right? The prompt you get whenever you have to be the one who is unfortunately stuck with jumping in the final confronting room. The prompt that you get for what that status is called Torn Between Dimensions. And the way that Bungie has described the process of taking is that you are taken out of this dimension and corrupted by the darkness. And as you stand there, you're in a different dimension, what one might call a darkness dimension. So maybe that's the case. It's very hard to go ahead and say anything like that because who knows? But yeah, good question. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure if this is actually a board question.
So sorry, guys, real quick, so sorry to interrupt. Make sure that you're always talking really close to the mic. You can adjust the stand if you want to, but yeah, the mics here are awful, which is why we've basically been swallowing them every day.
That mic doesn't like tall people.
Yeah, not sure if this is actually a lore question, but definitely something I've always been curious. When the Rise of Iron came out, we've now seen the Cosmodrome covered in snow and the walker sitting there that we've defeated in the past. For 3 years we've been playing, but how much time in-game has actually elapsed? It seems like only
you know what the real answer is? Centuries.
Yet it only seems like months because we've only seen one season.
Well, I mean, it's like time that just our game time. Okay, we're not talking like time between. Okay, just our game time.
You know, I think that it is actually going one-to-one. I think it honestly is going in tandem because take a look at the points in our timeline, such as say Halloween and Christmas, and for those you have the Dawning SRL or Festival of the Lost, and it really is traced accurately onto the months and days of our year.
And you've got a lot of humans in the tower, like Amanda Holiday. She hasn't aged, really, has she, since we've been
there? Well, that's like humans have like triple the lifespan and all that, so it's like.
She did age though, because we saw her as a really adorable girl.
Yeah, but she's missing a leg now.
Oh, now you've triggered a whole pound.
So they're kind of contradicting themselves though, because that's a good point, that it goes with our seasons, but we haven't actually seen weather seasons change.
I think that goes back to game mechanics. And,
there's always going to...
Because video games.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
That was a good question.
So I gotta ask, who's the LoreMaster?
Who's the LoreMaster?
Okay, real talk.
Oh, that was a long question?
real talk if I may. Real talk if I may. So this is something that was very interesting. On the YouTube circuit, not many of the guys that did YouTube stuff always talk to each other within the lore community. And it was very much thanks to this guy and Sir Wallen, we all recently sort of came together and said, why don't we work more together? So whenever we get a question like this, and it always comes up, there's always one YouTube comment saying, man, I despise Vibes videos, I think my ones are way better, or man, I despise my ones videos, Vibes are way better.
I never get that.
Well, you mean, okay. Well,
no, he just deletes them, that's what he does.
You're ruining this point. Okay, real talk. If anybody has a passion for lore, they are a LoreMaster, okay? I do not think that there is any person who, regardless of whether you do YouTube or podcasts or Twitch, or whether you're creating a website, Relationship Collective, or whether you're just a fan of the lore, if you have passion for the lore, you're someone I want to call a LoreMaster, and I think you are worthy of that title. Right. Simple as that. There is, forget about anything else. This is an intellectual field. It doesn't matter that somebody has a certain number of subscribers. Everybody's ideas can be equally critiqued, can be equally thought about, and should have equal merit. So, the answer to that, we are all the LoreMasters.
What do you think happened to St. 14?
Oh, here we go. How far or do we want to get into this argument?
Do you want to take
Great,
this one, Blue?
you have 1 minute each.
Osiris happened to Saint 14. Well, because I mean, so there's a couple theories. There's the theory. Okay, he was sent to get rid of Osiris. We don't know really what that means.
Whoa. Not get rid. To find Osiris.
Okay, to find, get rid. Because the speaker wants to kill him.
Hey, the speaker still loves Osiris, even if
That's true. Because Osiris did a really good job and proved him wrong. But so he went after Osiris. We don't know what happened. We don't know. Did he join Osiris? What did he do? Did he find him? That's assuming that Osiris is still around in this universe. We don't know. I like the theory that Saint 14 is kind of with Osiris now, because we know that they were really good friends. Actually, Osiris was made Vanguard Commander because of Saint 14's recommendation to the speaker. So to have him go after Osiris is kind of a slap in the face for Saint 14. The guy likes headbutting things. He doesn't. I don't really think he's going to take a slap in the face standing down. And yeah, I don't. But and the other thing is so the speaker pronounced him dead. Basically, we had a vigil for him in the city. But is he dead?
Yeah. So do you think we'll find out any Osiris DLC?
I
maybe?
really hope so, because
Yeah.
I want a new. I want a new Mohawk helmet.
Okay, I'm calling it right now. Osiris DLC, new destination. Every destination is supposed to have like an NPC quest giver, like Devrim Kar, I think it is for the European Dead Zone. Saint 14 will be the one for whatever the Osiris DLC.
I will be
I'm calling
so
it right now. I'm
happy.
calling it right now.
Alright.
Or the Stranger.
My thoughts on Osiris is I do like to think, if you look at the parables of Allspring, basically the preachings of Osiris, and you also, if you stand around listening to Brother Vance long enough, he talks about some sort of ascension, that he's like, I used to be a guardian, now I'm something more, and there is this element that, similar to how Toland's ascended to the hive netherrealm, there's a mirror of that with Osiris, that there's potential, he's worked out Vex time travel, and that he is time traveling somehow, or ascended somehow, and beyond being a guardian. So, Saint 14 is going to have to do some tricky stuff to find him.
Alright, great. Thank you for the question. I think we've got time for maybe 2 more.
So, a pretty deep question. What do you think we'll see Toax again? Do you think we'll see Toax again?
Okay.
Yes.
Consideration
Yes.
past lives.
I think so, if only simply because of the fact that Teox is one of those characters that keeps on getting chased after. There is still vengeance to be had, and I think there will be some kind of DLC character later down the line. They're not big enough for a main DLC. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, quick question. If someone was becoming a beginner LoreMaster, just getting into the lore now, where is the best place to start?
Okay, best place to start.
You want to? Okay, on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ishtar Collect. That one. That website.
I will take this moment to plug, actually. So the reason I'm here, in case you're wondering, me and Wife and I, I'm a streamer predominantly, and there's not a lot of lore content on Twitch itself. So Wife and I started up our own lore series on Twitch, where every single week we pick a topic and we start talking about it. We take questions from chat, and I kind of pick Wife's brains. I want to learn myself. I am a lore noob. I started a few months ago trying to learn. I played a lot of Destiny, but I didn't know much about the story. So Ishtar Collective is a fantastic place to start. As I say, you look at one card, you go through the whole rabbit hole of that. But if you do want to just sit passively and listen as we go through the more basic elements of the story and discuss the connections there, then our Explore streams and soon podcast will be a good place to start for that.
I think it's really good just because you get categories. So if ever you wanted to know all the lore on Saint 14, it's all there. All the sources, every Grimoire card, every single piece of flavor text from every item, every mention or reference to them in game. So yeah, Ishtar Collective, no question. Go for it, man.
Quick question. I just wanted to know, because we got tidbits of Lysander not too long ago, do you think we will be seeing any more, references or even the character, being that he's been outside of the city during all of this craziness that's happening in Destiny 2?
So I think the Lysander storyline is one of those ones where Bungie is basically just priming it, propping it up, putting it there for people to remember so they can sort of introduce the elements to it, and then they'll really bring it in later. So yeah, I'm really excited for the Lysander storyline though.
And now Warlock Master Class.
Yeah, big class. I'll accept that just because you got it right.
Now, this man must be a warlock or a titan. I'm getting titan, right? Titan.
You're so fun. Thank you for building the community, for growing it. All right, what do you think about the Heart of the Black Garden being a recreation of Coria Blade Transform? And I think for more here if you want to run through it.
I think the Heart of the Black Garden was the closest we've ever seen to what the darkness really is.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to make another video about this because I'd like to revisit this topic. But when in the Books of Sorry and the Coria Blade Transform, there's something about they couldn't mimic Oryx, and then there was something different they couldn't mimic, and then they started worship. I think whatever happened there eventually became the Black Garden. So maybe that's where you're going.
Yeah, Oryx actually destroys Coria Blade Transform, but before being destroyed, she disseminates all of that information because it was a simulation of the darkness.
Yeah. So it could, and the other thing is, it's aesthetics-wise, it's very similar to Touch of Malice. That's called the Heart of Darkness. Could be Worms.
Well, but Coria was given to Savathun.
It was given to Savathun as well. Coria Blade Transform wasn't a gift. It was gifted to Savathun as well.
Yeah, and at the very end, it says that the last thing Coria sees is a light full of stars. Right. And if you jump into the Heart of the Black Garden in the mission at the very end, it's just an expanse of stars that you see in game.
Send me the information, I'll make a video. Thank you.
So guys, we have a minute left, so it's going to be lightning round. Super quick questions, super quick answers.
What is your idea on the thought of like one Guardian only having one subclass? Because you see Zavala using Striker and then also using Bubble.
Multiple subclasses, but yeah, sure.
Martial arts you can learn like Avatar Last Airbender.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you. Go.
What do you think about Atheon being dead? Because his name times conflicts would suggest a conflict of time.
Here we go. Is Atheon dead? What do you think about that, Mylan? Is Atheon dead?
Yes. Times conflict, that we say is the convergence of all timelines should be dead.
Should he?
But there is a lot of cards that talk about what came after Atheon, what came after the Needle. Atheon translate. It's a horse, right? Greek mythology, and someone would ride the horse. Something like that.
Yeah,
there's definitely hints that there should be something beyond Atheon, but that doesn't.
Well, that's also assuming that Atheon is a singular entity and not a function.
Wibbly wobbly timey stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey guys, would you ever consider co-authoring a chronological narrative-driven novel written?
I've already done it.
No, I've released the first episode. I had an author that sent me a novella for Destiny, set within Destiny universe. I read the first couple chapters, it's amazing. When I get back from Guardian Con, chapter 1 will be out. It's a podcast and on the channel.
It's amazing. It is amazing.
He's a really good writer. Jamie Bruce.
Possibly can. Go.
So we know that Rasputin is temperamental, and that he prizes his satellites. Since they are gone in Destiny 2, how do you think he will react in his DLC?
Not necessarily Rasputin satellites, our satellites. Boom.
Not the answer you wanted, but
Hey, Killer Beast from Destiny Tracker, big fan of everybody. How you doing? Good. I wanted to know, with the Grimoire cards gone, how do you think you'll be finding the lore
in the game?
We'll be finding on Ishtar.
Scannables, adventures, NPC dialogue, quest lines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey guys, so why is there Siva and Taken in D2?
Say what? Why is the
Siva?
Right.
There was a Rasputin controlled Siva for a while, and there are ships called AI ships. One of them contained a lot of Siva. My speculation at the moment was that ship crash landed on Nessus, and that is Malahiati carrying Siva, and that's why it's on Nessus.
Right, the Exodus project, and then also with the Taken, we know that even though we took out the King, we didn't take out the entirety of the Taken. So it makes sense that they are actually still in the game.
Long story short, go to Nessus, Siva strike, guaranteed.
Since the fallen houses are like broken apart and united, what major NPC character not amongst the awoken royalty would accept a peace agreement amongst the fallen?
Perix. What?
I think Prince Aldrin.
Yeah, well, Aldrin is pretty
outside the Awoken world.
outside of the Awoken world. I think it's Barracks.
Barracks has always wanted to combine the houses and to bring the fallen back to the
Wait, you
nobility.
mean the Kells?
Amongst the Vanguard, because the whole
I think this is something where you can't counter it with anything other than the Awoken, right? Like, it's got to be them because they're the only ones that have had real connections to the Fallen. Our only connections to the Fallen are, hey, here's my fist, it is connected now to their broken face. Right?
I have a theory that Barracks may be, Barracks may be amongst the hit.
I need to think about that.
It's not often that you render Vibe speechless.
Well, I was just wondering, because there's room for a fourth banner and an empty space on the Vanguard crest, is it possible that there was a forgotten, lost class?
Oh man, this is a long answer. So, I totally want to take this one. The thing about the subclasses is, if you look at it from a game mechanics point of view, every single character summons the super the same way. It's a summoning ritual. If you change the ritual, look at the new subclasses, you get a different super. So it's not necessarily that there's a lost subclass, it's that anybody who changes the ritual to summon the super can change the super.
Oh, I mean class, like Titan, Warlock.
Right, and if you look at that, that's actually based off the psychological aspects of the individual guardian. So it's not necessarily that you're going to have a different class, necessarily, it's that you're going to have different subclasses and manifestations of within those classes. Because they're not really classes in this sense that that's the only thing, it's that that's the base underlying psychological value of a guardian's approach to the world. So they've kind of covered the entire spectrum of paradigms with those three classes.
Alright, we're going to have to wrap it up now, I'm afraid. We're 5 minutes over schedule, so thank you all very much for listening. Thank you.
Come find us, we'll be wandering around. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and talk to us just after panels, we'll be sort of over to the side of the stage for about 15 or so minutes before we all get shepherded off by volunteers. So yeah.
Vibe's on a meet and greet later today at 3:30 if you want to see him, so am I. Are you in a meet and greet?
No, you just gotta find me.
You just have to find me.
Yeah, they'll be on the floor.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.